Do, 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 do. Welcome everybody to Aeon Bite. Aeon Bite Live specifically. Welcome to the desert of the real that ships smoke on the horizon. We don't take prisoners but liberate them. We are not the final authority on anything but hope to be an endless possibility for everything. You are the final authority and you are amazing. My name is Miguel Connor and I am still your Pompadours of Gnosis, and I'm the Magic Man, and you're the Magic Man too, or women too. Welcome everybody, and so happy to see everyone on this Saturn day. Very excited about this show, and with us we have the honor of being joined by Ismael Perez. Ismael, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Miguel, for having me here, and as well as Vince.
Thank you very much. Pleasure's all ours. And with us, we've got the Moondog himself. Vance, how are you doing?
I'm here. I am happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to an enlightening experience.
Oh, yeah. I love Ismail's work. And again, as the audience will find out, it certainly jives very well with the whole idea of Gnosticism, ancient, modern, and everything we are talking about. So awesome. Yes, I will repeat for those of you going into the chat, please super chat any questions you might have for Ismail. If you have any complaints to me, please, super chat those too. Always interesting. The comment sections is always interesting. Somebody wrote in some show yesterday or 2 days ago that I picked my nose at, for 1 second and they were so mad at me. That's what, the world is being attacked by these Archons. And that's what people are worried about. So welcome to the human race, what they complain about. Hey. But yeah.
Way to get revenue.
Yeah, exactly. Now, bring it in. Completely self-conscious now. But comment sections, what are you going to do? But yes, please super chat them. I see Wayne Matthias, who was recently on the show. Good to see you, Wayne. And good to see everybody there. Not much on the housekeeping, but of course I will mention it as we go through the show. Well, Ismail, please tell us, let's get started with your superhero story or your red pill. Tell us how you woke up, basically.
For me, it actually goes back to being a kid. I've always felt like I was different. I knew I wasn't from this realm, like many of the people out there, perhaps even yourselves. And so it was a matter of adapting to different type of reality that just didn't make any sense to me. So it was very hard for me growing up. It was a challenge, to be honest with you. I was always the black sheep, always the weirdo, the person nobody wanted to talk to in school because they thought I was autistic, or because I would just sit in the back of the class and, stare off into, I guess, what they thought was nothingness, but I was having visions. I was a visionary, and the normal person couldn't figure that out. And so, growing up and being different, you get labeled. You get labeled with all kinds of stereotypical terminologies and always trying to put us in some sort of a box of some kind. But the whole point is, my journey began when I was a kid. I've always felt like I was connected to something bigger than just this realm. I've had intuition my whole life. I didn't know what it was called. I've always believed it was the voice of God. And later, when I turned 20, I started meditating. I started practicing Kriya Kundalini yoga. And as I became more involved in the breath work, in the creative visualization, in the clearing of the mind, in the accessing higher states of consciousness, eventually all these little practices just led to me connecting with other versions of myself, as multidimensional beings. I hate to say this, guys, but this is probably going to blow a lot of people's minds, but we have infinite bodies, guys. Our consciousness is so vast, that we operate different bodies on different timelines, on different dimensions, and the past is still taking place. It's all happening. Everything's happening now. Atlantis wasn't history. Atlantis on a different parallel reality is still happening right now as I speak. The future, the future is already happening. So it's just, when I fell into the rabbit hole, the first thing I said was, are there others that think that have figured it out the way I have? And probably not as many, but I noticed that there were different levels and stages of awakening. I noticed that a lot of people were into conspiracy theories and finding out about secret societies and, their secret influence over world societies. And then some people were more into magic and the supernatural and, learning about Scientology, and, that stuff goes a little bit too much into the dark side. And then some people started studying theosophy and anthroposophy. And then that's when, people started realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe there is a whole new different layer of reality that they're not telling us about that could actually only be accessible through a certain brain frequency by, shifting our beta wave state, which is normal consciousness, right? That's where everyone's at, into different states of or brain frequencies that allow you to access what mystics, shamans, adepts, always called other dimensions and different realms. And so I decided to write a book about it. And I saw it connected with interdimensionals, is what they call in the disclosure community, extraterrestrials. It's really just all these different, it's all interconnected. You can't talk about interdimensionals or otherworldly entities or other dimensional entities without talking about esotericism or the supernatural or metaphysics. It's all kind of intertwined. And that's why I strongly believe that at one point in our timeline, there was an era where they were all different facets. Science and spirituality were one and the same, and all these different avenues of study, whether you call it quantum physics or magic, kind of one and the same, except one of them is like you have hard-based evidence nowadays, right? Through these experiments, like the double slit experiment should really baffle everybody's mind. Like, I don't understand why people are still thinking, oh, wow, they've proven over and over that everything's an ocean and energy and matter only collapses when you interface with it through this avatar. Well, that's how every reality is. Base reality. You guys want to know what base reality is? And this is going to sound interesting. Okay, the truth of the matter is that everything is everything is a hologram. Every plane of reality, every level, every dimension is the difference between our third dimensional reality and higher dimensions is that those higher dimensions are less denser. They're more, they're vibrating at higher frequencies. That is the only difference, but it's all interconnected through the unified field. So when I've come to discover how multiple universes were real, how advanced civilizations of all these different categories, they all have different stages in which they fall under. How the past is really the future, and there's really no time, in a sense where, I mean, I really fell into the rabbit hole to the point where if I would have released my book, say a year prior to when I released it in late 2021, or even 2 years, everybody would have called me a quack. Everybody would have called me woo-woo. And that's why I've waited so long to release my book, when I felt like the time was right for the masses, not for the masses, but for a great number of people to really understand beyond just ancient aliens, beyond just, the secret gospel of Thomas, and a few of the texts that were unearthed in Nag Hammadi and stuff, and beyond, what Helena Petrova Blavatsky and Alice Bailey and Rudolf Steiner also helped to, rediscover. It goes beyond all that.
Yeah, I love how you put out your book on September 11th. I was like, score! That's what a flex. But
unintentionally.
Oh, okay. Well, there's no accidents, as we know here. There was a reason. And you said you practice Kriya Yoga.
Yeah, for many years. I still do, but now I've switched it up with different breathing techniques. Depending on how I feel every day, I do a different technique. So,
yeah, I mean, I know I want to hear this because, again, we get downloads, but how do we deal with these downloads? We got to keep, talking about it, and reading is not enough. There has to be these exercises to expand our consciousness, get us to go so we can remember our different selves, as you talk about. And it's interesting. I know people are getting sick of me talking about this book, but I'm releasing next year a book on Elvis Presley. He was into Kriya Yoga. He was right there with Dayamata practicing. And he himself went to one of his groupies, June Wanda Hill, and told her, I am not of this world. I'm from the 9th planet of Jupiter, and went on this. And he was very into UFOs, had experiences. He would have been just at home with us. So it's interesting. I'm seeing that connection. The other one, who I talk about in my book, is Philip K. Dick. And he went even farther. He had an experience, and he went out and said, I am a starseed, and it's all recorded. So when you said the yoga thing, I was like, oh, maybe there is a channel, this kind of stuff, because like you said, the mystics were always going for the stars. They knew it. They had a different language, but they're all pointing to the same direction, right?
Yeah, and the mystics never stopped communicating with the light beings of higher dimensions, or the interdimensionals that are part of the councils of light. And they still do, and in like manner, the dark forces, those that took the path of the fallen ones, they, in turn, they've never stopped communicating with their lower fourth astral density entities that gave them the orders and stuff. So,
yeah, and that's interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! I said everything is. We're this entire war. It's beyond our dimension. It's just now rippling into the end result with the victory of the light. It's now rippling into our dimension.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you next. You wrote a book called The Secret Government in 2007. I mean, talk about ahead of the times. Back then, that was fringe. Now it's something that millions of people accept, but back then in 2007 is just the idea of, again, our government's been taken by dark forces and all that. It's something very rare. And on this show, of course, we talk a lot about the Archons, whether we talk about the Archons as extraterrestrials, demons, the Anunnaki, the Watchers, none of the mind parasites. They're not mutually exclusive. But so I wanted to ask you, what's your take on the Archons, Ismail?
Well, it's all connected to the story of Yaldabaoth and the Demiurge. The reason why we felt from that state of glory and immortality before we, were forced into these flesh suits. We used to live forever. We were connected to universal life force. We were multidimensional, super conscious entities. And I started to make the connections between the Anunnaki that fell, the fallen Anunnaki, and the different Archon entities that were connected with the serpent race known as the Draconians, or the evil negative aliens, and how they really control the alien consciousness and mindset, or what they call Orion complex. It's really the Archon energy that has been fueling all the evil within our universe, because it involved many worlds at one point. But I made the connection that the original human race, and I was able to validate this, accessing remotely, viewing the secret CDT plates that even thought the Atlantean drew information from when he wrote the Emerald tablets, which, by the way, he wrote a lot of the truth from the Emerald tablet records, or the real CDT plates, but he also modified it in a way that it served the serpents, the draconians, world domination agenda, in other words. And so I've come to understand that the demiurge that everybody is talking about, that completely downgraded an already existing spiritual Adam, the original Adam, not the monkey climbing Homo habilis, was no other than Enki. I made that connection. Before Enki, we were already an existing race, and the ancient astronaut theories and those that support this concept of how that the Anunnaki made us are actually misled, and they're lying to people. They're telling people that when they landed here 500,000 years ago, that there was only the primate, and that is not true. When they landed here, there was a 12-strand Terranesian angelic human race that was immortal. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why they were actually tricked, they were completely manipulated, because our ancestors didn't see no evil. They didn't really understand what was happening because they had such a pure heart. And that's probably why they were able to, create this vehicle, this slave race, right? And downgrading the original Adam stock into a lower primate, tribal, whatever we were when they dropped us in consciousness after the Atlantean cataclysm. Of course, they wiped our memory, as they always do, and which leads me to believe that maybe, the story of Tartaria and all these other glorious, civilizations with advanced technologies and free energy, did exist even after Atlantis, and it's always the powers that be that rewrite history and cover up the truth about what's the truth about things, and kind of give us this false illusionary, false history narrative. So I made the connection that the Archon energy, which is also the highest level of evil that fuels what we call the draconian negative alien complex consciousness, is also related with and expresses itself through artificial intelligence. So because of the fact that this is an entity that is not embodied, does not have avatars, and so it wants so hard to animate it, to embody in physical form. And I made a connection that it is the Archon consciousness that pre-existed, obviously, before any AI machine, self-learning, whatever you want to call it, that actually when the machine was ready, it was like they created an avatar for that consciousness. That consciousness took over the machine, and that's how the AI became sentient. So there has to be a pre-existing consciousness in order to animate the machines and the neurological brain that they make. You can't just build a robot and expect it to be conscious. Consciousness has always existed prior to anything, and that goes the same with us. There is no physical world, there is no space, matter, or time without consciousness. Everything is an emanation from consciousness, and that's what science is now proving. So in like manner, you can't have any AIs that are self-sentient or autonomous without having a pre-existing consciousness that uses the AI machine to express itself. It's the same thing. So yeah, I've gone deep into the rabbit hole, really deep, but also to realize that, we are living in a time where we're giving an opportunity to once again go back to our state of immortality, which is a body that is not made out of flesh and blood, but a body that is made out of a more refined type of pure matter that is vibrating at a higher frequency, that does not break down, that does not age, that is perfect physical form, that it is indestructible. That's what I believe, and that's where we're heading. And it's fluid-like. You could travel at the speed of light by literally becoming pure energy, and like an email, project yourself and then rematerialize your physical form anywhere you want. And I believe that that's what our original existence was, and that's where we're heading.
Well said. And yeah, of course, it reminds me of the Gnostic texts. I'm sure you've read them, or the Neoplatons, where you sit there and you take these astral journeys, passwords through the Archons, and you go all the way to this alien god and come back. So yeah, it's our natural way of being. And you're right about your book coming out when it did, because as we all know, suddenly there's all this alien disclosure from our oh so wonderful government, which of course I agree it's run by this dark brotherhood, but also AI. Strangely, at the same time, AI and alien disclosure. I'm sure you think these are connected, or what is going on? Because it's something, to me, it's nefarious. But what do you think, Ismail?
Well, I think that they're trying to control the narrative as far as like advanced technologies and extraterrestrials are concerned, but
they know what's out there. They know the truth, right?
Not only have they known, but our own government within the private sector has been using this technology, where they have pretty much been evolved all the way up to like 1,000 years ahead of the general public. So within the private sector, we have interstellar technology. We have everything that we see in Star Trek, everything that we see in these sci-fi, Babylon 5, portal technology, replicators, all sorts of anti-gravity aircraft, all kinds of healing modalities beyond the medbed, and much more that are. So yeah, they've had this technology, and this goes back to some of the nasty deals that our own MJ-12 through, or our military industrial complex, right, through MJ-12 struck since the early 1950s, late 1940s, So all this stuff is real, we have the technology. And so there is a war, going on between these breakaway groups, and this war where you have one group within this breakaway groups that want to release the technologies, and then you have another group that does not want to release the technologies. So what we call the group that want to release the technologies, we call them Space Force, we call them the Earth Alliance. And then the group that does not want to release the technology, we call them the military industrial complex, because they want to keep it for themselves. They want to wait at least another 300 to 500 years while we're still dying here in the Stone Age, and they're over there living luxurious on these beautiful decked out planets way beyond the fringes of our solar system, with all the healing and living, using a type technology where their brain capacity, their IQ goes into the 200-300s, and they're like all like Einsteins, and they don't age anymore, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think the problem is that I can't see on these spaceship or time. I can't see Biden going up the stairs without tripping. So, or Chris Christie. So they're not getting the advantage. Well, obviously, this 300 IQ stuff is not working with him, is it?
No. There are several members within these interplanetary organizations, such as the Advanced Contact of Intelligent Organization, where they do enhance their intelligence using alien technology, and that's also another proven, fact that they've been covering from us, that many members within these breakaway groups have enhanced themselves, and in some cases they have already integrated with artificial intelligence. So we do have cyborgs already, by the way. We've had cyborgs ever since the 1950s. It's just it's unbelievable, all of the crap that's happening behind people's, behind closed doors. And the people on the surface Earth, by the way, this Earth has all kinds of civilizations living on it. We're called the surface dwellers. You have tons of civilizations that have yet been undetected deep within our oceans, that are actually stellar. In other words, they access portal technology and they're able to go to different parts of the universe. And then you have also civilizations within the Earth. There is this idea that the Earth is hollow, and that it's like a honeycomb with various layers, and then you have different land masses, inner Earth land masses with oceans and seas, and then our sun, their sun is like our sun, but it's at the center of the Earth, which allows them to also receive nourishment, right, for all their vegetation. And so it's like a whole new different world within the hollow Earth, and these are civilizations that actually were able to escape the cataclysms of old, that led to the fall of ancient civilizations such as Lemuria and Atlantis. So, and then we have, over 80 bases and colonies established by these breakaway groups throughout our solar system and beyond, of course. But the whole point is that, this whole planet is full of ETs. It's just that, we, the surface dwellers, have no access to what's really happening beyond this matrix pocket that they put us in. But we're breaking it. We're breaking it. A lot of people are snapping out of their programming. They're like, seriously, they're not drinking the Kool-Aid anymore, which is beautiful.
Indeed, yeah. I guess the plot to Men in Black is closer to truth than we could have imagined. Vance,
Which
do you
are-
have a question? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
which earthly nations do you think are tapped into all this advanced stuff? You think it's just the United States, or the United States and its allies, or is Russia and China? What do you think?
All the major countries are all in on it. They even have a breakaway group called the Global Galactic League of Nations, which is pretty much it's a conglomeration of billionaires, you could say, that were like about to blow the whistle on these breakaway groups if they didn't have their own program that allowed them to go hang out in big luxurious colonies while enjoying, the fruits of interstellar technology. So that's called the Global Galactic League of Nations. So every country is in on it. Russia, China, I mean, Brazil, even India. So they all have their foot. Everybody has a foot or two within these breakaway groups, and some of them are working together. For instance, our interplanetary police force, known by Solar Warden, is, even though it started secretly within the Navy, within our Navy, it extended over to Russia as well, and Brazil and India. So it's a conjoined effort from those four countries that are working together to create some sort of interplanetary police force here in our solar system. That's as to why they're called Solar Warden. And that's, of course, it's all now being converted, or they're trying to release all of that through Space Force, of course. Space Force is like the surface of Solar Warden. It goes
Are
much.
you talking about the actual Space Force,
Trump,
United
Trump
States Space Force,
initiated,
or
yes, the United States Space Force.
okay,
Exactly. Yeah. So,
formerly the Air Force Space Command?
well, yes, but they're using it as a way to eventually leak some of this information and technologies from Solar Warden. Solar Warden is like the deeper, you could say, the secret organization within Space Force.
Interesting. Yes, for those just joining, we've got Ismael Perez. He is discussing his book, Our Cosmic Origin, which lays it all down. So definitely check that out. People are saying very positive things in the comments, that's for sure. So what the question I wanted to ask you is, when it comes to this technology coming out, I mean, if you look at human history, and my friend Chris Knowles did a lot of research, and he calls it Lucifer's technology. And I mean, we all know that, civilization was put, and then boom, the Sumerians just pop out of the ground with a fully mature civilization. Then we're sort of going up the curve. And then right after World War II, bang, we hit like the greatest peak in advance in human civilization. What do you think happened? Because again, there's disagreements. Nazi technology, alien crafts, nuclear atomic bombs opening portals. I mean, what do you think happened? And also what happens now, you're talking about keeping technology from us. This curve, we've hit a flat since the 21st century. I mean, the best we got is the iPhone in the last 20 years or something like that. So what do you think, Ismail?
Well, I think what happened was that the NAA, the Negative Alien Syndicate, alien groups, broke the Prime Directive, and they went around our back and around the Galactic Federation or the Galactic Forces' back and started negotiating secretly with the Nazis. And so the Nazis were the first to develop the Hannibal Sirius, which later became the Bell. And so they were the first to perfect the anti-gravity aircraft machine. And then, of course, later, after Hitler started developing more anti-gravity machines in Antarctica, which is a huge Draco-infested subterranean world by its, in its own. He started recruiting the cabal. He started negotiating with the Rothschilds, and that's when Hitler, used the bait of, yes, if you strike a deal with these aliens, the Greys and the reptilians, we could do something powerful here. We could take over the world. We could initiate the plan for a one world government, and the people of the world, which they consider cattle or goyim. That's the thing. They don't think like they think they're so much superior than the rest of us, and it's pathetic. They said they believe that the people of the earth will have no clue that we're out there colonizing the galaxy, and here we are. We're going to use this technology to bring about a one world government. So that's what ended up happening. That's why there was a boom in technology since the 1940s and 50s. It just it all started with the Virile Society in the 1920s, with Maria Ostrich and her inner circle of channelers, as they were making contact with the Nordics from Aldebaran, and then after they supposedly had some visitations from the Aldebarans, and then they would go back and forth, where even Maria Ostrich and her inner circle of friends were actually traveling back and to from Aldebaran. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was Hitler heard of what was happening, this interplanetary affair that was taking place in secret, and so he wanted in. He's like, he sent his forces out to see if they could gather some information, and they did. They ended up discovering the blueprint to develop, and that's why the Nazis, through trial and error, it took them a while to finally perfect what they called their prototype, which was the bell. But it was a series of trial and error for them to create this, and that's what ended up happening. That's why there was a boon in technology since really the 1950s. But it all began in the late 1920s with the Virile, and then it just kind of escalated, and really the Second World War was indirectly and covertly won by the Nazis. By the way, it's just they made it seem like it was won by the Allies, but in essence, the Nazis secretly were already infiltrating the United States government through Truman. They used Truman. He's the one who sold us, not Eisenhower, by the way. Eisenhower met with certain Galactic Federation members and was warned about striking deals with the Greys, but Truman was not. Truman was like, I have no choice. Let's just sign this declaration of, you guys have full control of the U.S. corporation. At that point, it was already a corporation, obviously. We've been a corporation since 18 something. And so that's what ended up happening. That's why there was a boom in acceleration in technology. It was all because within the private sector, you had the cabal developing technology at the speed of light, where they went from being 300 to 400 years ahead of the general public to being 1,000 years or more ahead of the general public in just the span period of 70 years, which was crazy.
Whoa, that's pretty intense. Yeah. What I like about also your research and what you do is you don't just fall in line with whatever the occult has to say. For example, I've seen you push back on flat earth theory. So you think, I don't agree with flat earth theory at all, and you don't either. We do live in a universe as we've taught, or what do you think? I know they lie a lot.
Yeah.
I don't trust anything out of that.
You can't have the flat earth and the hollow earth at the same time.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So you either believe in the concept that there are these subterranean worlds and lakes and cities like Telos, Shambhala, Agartha, and there are portals. I had an opportunity to visit Mount Shasta this late June, and we did contact with certain ET races, and I didn't get a chance to see any ships, but the group that I was there with, they do it on a periodic basis. There's been times where they've seen ships, appear or land, and they've seen like Saint Germain. So they know that there's something's going on underneath the mountain that connects to these inner Earth societies, and that's a fact, by the way. That Mount Shasta acts as a gateway into the inner Earth. And there's many other, of course, they say that in the northern part of the globe, right? In the, is it the Arctic? There's another entry. And I think even the Nazis were trying so hard to enter into the inner earth. But
Wow.
they were slumped, of course. The inner earth societies, they don't want the surface dwellers because we're still too warlike. I mean, everyone in the inner earth society is like a Jesus, Gandhi, or Buddha. They're also about trying to help others and full of integrity and honesty. And it's like, why can't we here on the surface world adapt those ideologies and live accordingly? Just make the world a better place, right?
Yeah, that would be better. Yeah, it reminds me. I think what did Elon Musk said that was I thought was good, and of course I'm not. I don't trust Elon Musk. He's another technocrat, but he did say the victors write history, but the idiots edit Wikipedia, and we're kind of screwed in between those two forces. And what about the moon landing? The United States moon landing. Do you see that as true, or what about India going to the moon? What's your take on us going to the moon? Stanley
Well,
Kubrick.
right. Well, the reason why in 1969 when we first landed, and we did land initially,
Oh,
but then they kind of staged it in Hollywood. They did create some sort of a stage because what they really saw was, they were told not to say anything. What they saw was advanced civilizations that had already been settled there. They saw all kinds of ETs. They saw humans. By 1969, we had several settlements already in the moon that were developed by these breakaway groups from the 1950s. So when we went up there in the late 1960s, 1969, we saw all these structures already. We saw humans from Earth coexisting with all kinds of ETs, and that's why they were told not to say nothing. And so, of course, when they came back down, they had to stage it on a Hollywood set. They had to stage the whole landing on the moon and establishing the American flag. And that is true, by the way, that was done in a Hollywood setting. And it's not because the Earth is flat; it's because they didn't want them to say anything that they saw. They were like, you have to keep everything under wraps, especially because they took over 250,000 people during the mid 50s, and they called that project Brain Drain, where they took all kinds of earthlings to go be enslaved in the off-world colonies, and they don't want people to know that stuff. And that explains why also there's been a lot of missing people on a yearly basis, is because a lot of them are being trafficked over to the moon, and to Mars, and to negotiate them, because the biggest commodity, it turns out, within the intergalactic communities is our DNA. A lot of extraterrestrials will do anything to have a little bit of our genetics.
why are we like caviar or something? I mean, what's so
Well,
great about
yes,
us?
we are. We have something within our DNA genome, within our material DNA, that is actually part of our chunk DNA that is not even in use yet, that
Mhm.
all the aliens covet. And I think that has a lot to do with the idea that we are, even though we appear to be a lesser developed species, you have to understand we're only using 4%, when most of these ETs are using 80, 90, 100%. And they're about 400, 3 to 400 IQs. Well, that's where we would be at just 10%. Now imagine if we were to use 30, 50, or 100, then we would bypass every alien out there as far as potential intelligence and spiritual power. But all of that is laying dormant within our DNA. And so that's why we're unique in our universe, is that we carry the highest potential, the highest genetic expression that is currently unplugged or currently not operating. But when it operates and it comes back on, oh my God, we're going to be like super powerful. you know
Very cool. Well, awesome. Yes, this is for those just joining. We got Ismael Perez having an excellent conversation on his book, Our Cosmic Origins. And yes, please subscribe. Please do the like button. Support this show. Support all alternative creators. Don't forget, I've got the virtual Alexandria Academy. I do have voiceover services. So check it out. And again, it's always great when you support. Vince, do you have a question?
I thought you might be asking about this time. Let's see, where in the universe do we begin?
In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, what's your scuttlebutt on the Nordics versus the tall aliens, the tall white light skinned aliens versus the reptilians and so forth? You know, which ones where are we dealing with in this country at this point?
Well, depending on which secret space program you're working with, if you're working with the nefarious programs, then we're dealing with reptilians, zetas, grays, and stuff like that. Those are the typical buggety eye, big skulls, small with those long arms. But if you're dealing with like Solar Warden and the benevolent secret space programs, then those are collaborating with like human like ETs that look like us and we look like them. So there are. See, most of the Nordics are good. It's just a small group called the Aldebarans, because they all originated in Lyra. You know, the first race was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed human. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not trying to be racist, but the original person that was developed in our universe, the first humans to ever come into existence were blonde hair and blue eyes, and they are traceable back to Lyra. And so a group of those people decided to join the reptilians in their expansion, in trying to bring the entire galaxy under their power. So they became the Orion Empire. So the Aldebarans are the ones that are like working with the Nazis. Those are the racists. They believe in in racial superiority. In this case, it's he who preserves or contains a higher reptilian count of genetics or a higher reptilian DNA structure within them is the most superior, of course. But they do have programs where they mix the Nordics. This particular group of Nordics mix with reptilians to create, of course, the Illuminati bloodlines. But the whole purpose is there is all kinds of races out there. There are all kinds of humanoids with darker skin, everything in between. In fact, all the different types of racial, you could say. The different types of racial categories that we have here, we have them everywhere throughout the universe. There are civilizations where people look Asian, and the whole planet looks Asian. The whole planet looks Asian. Then you go to some worlds or some other parts of the galaxy, and everybody looks Mediterranean. Everybody has black hair. They all look Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Greek. And then you go to another part of the galaxy, to a different solar system, and everybody looks African American. So what I'm trying to say is that right here on this planet, we carry the greatest diversity of the different types of human extraterrestrials that exist out throughout the universe. So yeah, the difference is the tall whites are also beings of light that are less physical. They're a little different than the Nordics, and they operate from the Sirius star system. So yeah,
I wonder what their
favor. Many believe that tall whites were the ones who originally created us, the original human being back in Lyra. So we were created by the tall whites. Some people believe, and I think it was Barbara. What's her name? Not Barbara. God, I just had a conversation with her.
Barbara DeLong?
No. What was her name? She's been at it for many years. She's in her 80s. I forget her name. Anyways, it'll come back to me. But she has evidence that says that the original humans in our universe were made by the tall whites, which are beings that are literally just reflecting light. Like you can't see them, like their physical structure. All you see is just white, like they just glow, and they're tall.
No, Vince, that makes sense because in the show The Greatest American Hero, the aliens saw a guy that looked like them and said, "You'll have our suit because you're blonde and blue-eyed." See, it's science, Vince.
What are their spiritual ideas like about God, the universe, and so forth? What are they? Do they have a common conception of that, or do they differ by alien race, or what's up with that? What do you know about that?
There is a God in the universe, but it's not according to the religious concept of God. To the positive races out there, on all the different dimensions, whether they're light body beings using hydroplasmic pure light DNA, or whether they're crystalline beings, manifesting superhuman abilities like the gods of ancient times and goddesses, or whether they're carbon-based biological specimens. They all answer to what they call the one, the prime creator source of all existence, which is an energy field that is eternal, first and foremost, that has never been created and therefore will never be destroyed. It has always existed, and they call it the one. They also say it's intelligent, and it's I believe that it makes a lot of sense when you think about what they're saying when they talk about this unified field, this universal field of intelligence that is everywhere, permeates all of existence, right? I'm starting to think that is the consciousness of what many races out there call the one, which is a universal, life force that exists that exists through every living thing, and every living thing is a part of it. It's an expression of that one cosmic consciousness, broken off into an infinite number of possibilities.
Fractals.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So
So
they told Plato, about that, and the Greeks. The Greeks, Platonism believes in the kind of the monad, right? The one.
Right, exactly. The monad, the one, in which everything comes from. Plato was right. Plato had access to some of the Gnostic teachings, by the way. He did.
And
so
he went to Egypt for the mysteries. Yeah. So he learned that.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of the Elysian school mystery schools, I think they were called the Elysian mystery schools.
Eleusinian. Yeah.
Well, I guess we're all pronouncing it differently.
They taught about
those guys, those things.
Yeah, they even the Council of the Olympian Gods, they talked about the unseen one, what they called the one. They always called it the one because everything in existence reduces to that immeasurable force called the one. Everything comes from that immeasurable force.
Very true. And what I like about your research, and when I think you're definitely hitting all the right notes, is that you talk about how, if we want to talk about a bad guy, you bring up Marduk. And for years, I've been saying that, Yahweh gets a bad rap, but he was just a sort of chaos spirit. But it's Marduk, the one that has been building this sort of repressive Abrahamic order world. And you say you also agree he's one of the baddies.
Oh, well, he's the ultimate baddie. Him and his father Enki, who is the Gnostic interpretation of the demiurge.
Right,
think about
exactly.
it. Master geneticist, right? And Zeus, Enlil, his half brother, which was inverted to look like the bad guy, went against his idea of downgrading the already existing angelic race that was immortal. But Enki said, no, we need to create a worker race. My astronauts, the Igigi, are tired of toiling here in the African, underground as they were excavating the golds.
Same as it ever was.
I think this is the person that you were trying to think of before, Barbara Marciniak. Is that right?
Barbara Marciniak is one of them, but it's her name is no, she's much older than her. God, she was just at Contact in the Desert. Linda Moulton Howie.
Oh, yeah, of course. I listen to her every week.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's the one who, she's the one who pretty much validated and clarified that our original extraterrestrial race that made us they come from Sirius. They were not the Anunnaki. That they were actually the tall whites. And yes, the blondes, the Nordics, the good Nordics, not the evil ones, not the ones from Aldebaran, were also involved in the development of the human race. And then, of course, they just, tweaked the DNA slightly different to create the different races and stuff. But it's all part of the same genome. And that's how humanity sprung throughout the universe. It all began in Lyra. Lyra was like the cradle of all human civilizations. And our parent race was a luminal race that had no physical form, but they just kind of appeared as a luminous torso with arms and legs, and they were extremely tall. That's why they're called the tall whites.
Fascinating.
Like Adam Kadmon, right? the
Adam Kadmon. Well, the Adam Kadmon is our light body, which was our original body, and when we were originally developed, when we were when we all branched off from that infinite consciousness that I mentioned had no end or beginning, that has always existed, and we all branched off as rays of light from that, we became units of consciousness, and then that's when we became self-aware as ourselves. And then so the first body that was made for us to express ourselves in the higher dimensions was the light body, which is the Adam Catman. And then through a process of descent, of going into lower densities, we became more denser and denser and denser. And this is actually the lowest densities. This is the lowest
I
density.
hope so. It can't get much lower than this.
And Ismail, we were talking about, against you go where your vision, your intuition, your research, your science takes you, and if that goes against the alternative community, so be it. But how have you dealt with the skeptics when they want math and science and all that, or how's it being received, or how do you deal with those haters?
Well, I get different types of haters. I have the fundamentalist religious zealots that just, that are condemning me to hell, to, find Jesus, you're going to go to hell, Ishmael. Stop misleading the people. And then I have your doubters, your skeptics who are all reductionists. Where's the hard-based evidence? Where is the science behind this? And then there's everything in between. I just have typical, people who just for whatever reason, they just, they don't believe any of this. And then you have the majority of people who resonate with this, or who all of a sudden say, Ishmael, after reading your book, you kind of put everything into perspective. It's like, thank you. And they thank me for it. So you have everything.
Yeah. And you just deal with them, right? Case by case basis.
Yeah. But I'm the kind of guy that, if somebody out there tries to, I don't know, destroy my character, I just kind of I don't respond.
Yeah.
I just let them do what they want.
Yeah, don't give them any fuel. It's yeah. It's the other thing I wanted to ask you too is okay, so I remember you saying, I forget, was it an interview, you talked about how 30% of humans are not even aliens, they're NPCs, they're soulless, they've lost whatever chance by whatever ideas you can. And of course the Gnostics talk a lot about that. Jesus says, in the secret book of John, that you'll reincarnate, you'll get a bodhisattva, it's all there. But if you keep pushing and going to matter and the material, eventually you'll just turn into matter. So it makes sense. But on the other hand, what about those who want to experience, those who think, well, maybe I'm a starseed, maybe I want to open my channels of communication, I want what Ismail, I want those downloads. What do you propose? What's your suggestions that it can open those channels of communication and find their true self?
Through meditation.
Yeah.
If we establish some sort of daily communion with other unseen aspects of ourselves, our higher self, whatever you want to call it, with your spirit guides or ancestors, you could begin to receive downloads. And it also helps to expand and magnify your psychic, your intuition, your abilities, your other senses. And so that's what I recommend people to do is just to establish, some sort of, whether it's mindful meditation, whether it's breathing, whether it's, using creative techniques, but just kind of, make sure that every day you have some sort of spiritual practice so that you could continue expanding your awareness and your consciousness. And in so doing, you continue to raising your frequency and vibration. And when you raise your frequency and vibration, that's how you activate the dormant DNA. Because after a certain hertz, a new codons begin to turn on. And that's why, they say that this great event called the solar flash that everyone's expecting, that's going to be the ultimate trigger. Well, it's pretty much a mathematical sequence that is going to be released by the sun, that is going to activate the new codons to come online, and then new strands are going to be unfolding. And so, yes, you're going to see some sort of a new breed emerging as a result of that. Kind of like the butterfly. We're all in a cocoon state right now.
So you have a positive view that the side of light's going to win this.
Oh, always. Yeah. And they always win. Evil, the reason evil is only on the losing side temporary is because even evil is controlled by the highest light. Because ultimately, prime creator source, which I said it was the cosmic consciousness of everything that is, which is what we call God, with the big G, has the final say so, because it's all a projection from that cosmic mind. We're just kind of playing out, playing out in that mental projection.
Well said. Yeah, and I wanted to share, this meme has been on my mind all day because it sort of reminded me a while ago. Let's see, where is it? Window come to, okay. Let's see, what do you guys think of this? The guy's going, I know all the secrets of the universe. And the other guy's, then why does your life suck? And he's stunned, and then he starts drinking. It made me laugh because, it's the great question. What do you think? Should our lives get better? Should we have more material success and better relations? Or are we always going to be on the edges? Are we always going to be sort of like you and me growing up, always the outcast and the guy in the, alone at the lunchroom and so forth? What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah, I guess, because can we manifest a better material life? And is that wrong?
Of course. It is in our divine right to live, our desired life, to have our abundance, to be whatever you want to be in life, and really we're the only ones that hold us back from that, because, there is nothing outside of ourselves that is keeping us where we're at, but our own selves, by the way,
And we all have a destiny. We all have a part to play in the grand design to heal the universe. Tikkun Olam, as the Kabbalists call it.
And the best way to heal the universe is to heal yourself. There is this saying, if you want to see change in the world, become the change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well said. Because again, it's a question people have, and it's a question that, of course, a long time ago I struggled with. Now, again, simple meditation, good spiritual rituals. Everybody's different. I have certain things that work for me, and they work, and everybody should be doing something instead of just talking about it. Open those channels, expand your consciousness, and all that. So, this is
that's how we evolve, is through the expansion of our consciousness. We move our bodies into higher frequencies, and then our mind first, and then our body follows. And then on every frequency, on every density, we have a much lesser, denser avatar until we become pure light liquid again, as we were when we started.
Exactly. And what do you think of, you're talking about, we have different parallels, dimensions. Are you a proponent of reincarnation? Or again, if everything's happening at once, then yes, you are reincarnated, but you're not reincarnated. Everything is happening at once, like you said.
It is. So all your lifetimes that you talk about, like, well, I was this during Atlantean times, well, I was this during Egyptian times, they're still there. You're still existing as that person. Believe it or not, it's all happening at once. I know this is like the ultimate, like when I first found this out through another, again, branch of quantum physics. I love quantum physics, by the way, because it proves ancient metaphysics. I came to understand that that everything is just one big, you could say, experience happening all simultaneously, that there's really no time. There is really no future. There is really no past. There's only the eternal now. I guess that's the best way to say it. Everything's happening now.
And how about all the parallel versions of ourselves and all the different multiverses?
It's all happening simultaneously.
We're sitting there.
Our consciousness is so vast that it's only a fraction. I would say less than 1% capable enough to animate this body here on this particular realm, on this Earth, in this timeline. Whereas the other 99.9 whatever percent of your consciousness is operating an infinite number of avatars throughout the multiverse rather.
Of course, the definition of you is the key thing here, and us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we are at the end. It is the top of the hour. Vance, any last question for Ismail?
Well, only about An infinite number of them.
All your infinite versions have a question.
Well, we have 12 major versions on every dimension, all the way to the 12. Those are our 12 major versions, and then they break off into 144, and then each of those breaks off into, an infinite number of versions. So, but ultimately, we have 12 major versions.
So, all right, here's my last question. Tell us something about your opinion and your learning about UFOs. And what are they? How many types are there, and so forth? I know it's kind of a big question, but there it is.
Well, they're obviously real, and they have all kinds of, from huge cigar shape, 10 football size, mile long, or perhaps
Mothership.
a few mile long ones. They have motherships that are as almost as big as states. Some motherships are as big as Texas, and then you have some motherships that are as big as a few cities combined, and then everything in between. And then you do have some biospheres, which are planet size. Those are the biggest ships out there. They're called biospheres. But we have all kinds of spaceships. I mean, um, some of them are intelligent. In other words, they're made out of living crystals and bio elements, and so some of the extraterrestrials are able to communicate with them telepathically, where they navigate their ships through their mind. They interface it through their mind naturally, and then you have the another category of ships that are completely dead matter, that are actually external technology that need to be navigated by pushing buttons and gadgets. So it all depends on what type of civilization you're from. If you're a spiritually mature civilization, chances are is that your ship or your spaceship is an extension of you through the light body. And then if you come from a civilization that is mostly technologically superior, and not as evolved spiritually, then of course they use dead matter and external technology where they don't interface with their ships, but they have to control it through gadgets and buttons and stuff.
Makes sense. How about plasma beings or plasma ships?
Yeah, plasma. The higher we go into higher dimensions, the more liquid matter becomes, the lighter matter becomes. And so when we operate through our liquid light body, which is our hydroplasmic genetic structure, we begin to create plasma or develop plasma ships through our own inner technology. It's kind of fascinating the way it works in the higher dimensions. It's almost like you are a natural replicator. It's almost like you are the 0 point energy. Everything that we're developing here on this, or even within the secret space program, is nothing compared to the type of technology used from the 6th dimension and up. The technology we use in the secret space program is only 4th dimensional, 5th dimensional technology. It gets really interesting when you go into the 6th, 7th, 8th, and all the way to the 12th level of reality, where the technology becomes it's more magical. It's more magical, where you can't really
Sounds
begin
fun.
to distinguish, magic from advanced, really advanced.
The old Arthur C. Clarke saying, yeah. Yeah, I was watching a movie yesterday. It's only on Hulu. It's called No One Is Coming to Save You. And it's a good twist because you've got the girl trapped in this giant house, but instead of monster, she's attacked by every sort of alien. Little grays, tall telepaths,
Oh no.
body snatchers. It's a weird. So she is attacked by every alien, and of course, you find out they're all in cahoots. But anyway, if you want a fun kind of extraterrestrial movie, check it out. So, yeah, before we go, Ismail, what is your favorite UFO movie? Any that really speak to you or in your heart?
I've always resonated with the Marvel movies because I read the comics when I was a kid, and
Mhm.
that's how I learned about the multiverse and the different
Right.
alien races. Except instead of making Thanos the villain, or Genghis Kong, or what's the other guy, Silver Surfer, who works for
Galactus, yes.
Galactics, now
Yeah, you're
the
getting into
villain.
some Jack Kirby worlds.
Yeah, well, it's just there are so many villains out there in the cosmos that are likened to these characters that we discover in these Marvel movies. And so I think the Marvel movies have been a huge, big impact in my life, as far as like how I'm seeing that they're using these movies to pretty much prepare humanity for what's coming, or at least to plant the seed, But I don't get me wrong. The original E.T. movie by Steven Spielberg back in the 80s was, I was only like 10 years old when I watched it, and it just made me cry. I really like that movie.
How
Awesome.
about Valis?
That
Well,
one I
that's not a
seen-
movie. That's not a movie.
Well, it's the alternative, the
Radio Free Album.
Radio Free Albemuth.
Yeah,
you
that's
seen
kind of a
that?
B movie. No, I don't think he has.
Okay.
No, I've never seen that show.
You
you
should
should
try
try
it. Yeah. Philip K.
Yeah.
Dick.
Awesome. Well, Ismail, well, I already have it on the show notes. I'll have it on the show notes for the audio version with your homepage, with your book. But would you like to share with the audience where to find you, or what? Anything else you want to promote? Events that you'll be in, or anything in the near future?
Sure. Besides reading my, I guess, revealing book, or Cosmic Origin, I also have a YouTube channel where I'm going live every other night, and I'm answering questions. I'm discussing important topics. I talk about different subjects each time. It's called the Real Ismael Perez YouTube. So what I could do is, because I do have a lot of copycats, a lot of fake accounts that are stealing my interviews and creating their channels using my name, I could give you the exact link where you could actually access all my platforms. And then you could just put in, if you put in the description, I'm sure people will go ahead and find me through the link rcosmicorigin.com.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. So that one has all your stuff, social media, everywhere.
They could even order my book, the new edition of Our Cosmic Origin, when they go into the cosmicorigin.com website. At the top, there's an A for Amazon. They click it, and then it takes them to the new edition. Make sure you order it through my website, because if you order it directly through Amazon, they will send you the old edition. So I'm just giving that.
And so the new edition is more updated, and your book is sold really well. I was looking at some of the statistics, so it's engaging people. It's reaching.
Yes, it has. I've been fortunate enough to be used as an instrument by the one infinite creator.
The monad, yeah.
To help help others remember, the truth, who they are.
Awesome. Well, we hope you continue to waking people up. It's always a good thing to spread light. So, but we are at the end. First, I'll say, Vance, thanks for keeping us company and keeping the chat from turning into Chatico.
I don't think I had much to do with that tonight, but you're welcome. And they're doing pretty good on their own tonight.
Yeah, very well behaved. Hundreds of people in the chat room, and there's no fight. So, Ismail, your essence is affecting everybody.
There you go. No reptilians tonight.
Yeah. Everybody obeyed, left the reptile brains. Well, Ismail, it's great to have you on the show again. Glad you're spreading the light, and thank you very much for your time and gnosis.
You're welcome, Miguel. And Vance, it's a pleasure meeting you both, guys. Take care.
Likewise.
And everyone out there, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you guys another time.
All right. Well, as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend.